But we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed.
What is the Insurrection Act and why is it making the headlines again? In a bold and controversial move, US President Donald Trump is floating the idea of invoking the Insurrection Act, a centuries-old law that allows presidents to deploy military forces on the American soil. A move that could escalate tensions between the White House, courts, and the Democratic-led states. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Donald Trump made it pretty clear by saying that he hasn't used the law yet, but won't hesitate to do so if state governors or courts continue to block his deployment of the National Guard troops. This announcement follows a federal judge temporarily blocking his efforts to send the National Guard to Portland. This isn't the first time Donald Trump has raised the specter of the Insurrection Act. Back in 2020, during the nationwide unrest following the police killing of George Floyd, he threatened to deploy military force under the same law, but ultimately pulled back. Now, if Donald Trump moves forward, it would mark the first use of the law in over 3 decades and almost certainly ignite a new legal and political firestorm over presidential powers and civil liberties. But what exactly is the Insurrection Act? Let me break this down for you. The Insurrection Act is a federal law which gives US presidents the authority to deploy military or federalize the National Guard to restore order during domestic unrest. It's essentially an exception to America's long-standing rule that the military should not interfere in civilian law enforcement. This law allows troops to carry out policing functions such as arrests or searches if there are unlawful obstructions or a rebellion against the government's authority. While it's commonly called the Insurrection Act of 1807, signed by President Thomas Jefferson, the current version combines several laws passed between 1792 and 1871. Over the years, it has served as a last resort tool for presidents facing violent uprising or major threats to civil order. Now let me tell you why is this so controversial. This act touches the nerve of America's oldest and deepest fears, which is turning the US military against its own people. The framers of the Constitution, haunted by the memory of British military crackdowns during the colonial rule, built strict barriers to prevent any president from wielding unchecked control over the armed forces on the US soil. That principle was later cemented in the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which bars the military from engaging in domestic law enforcement. Now, the Insurrection Act stands as a rare exception to that rule, and civil rights advocates warn that it gives presidents sweeping powers that could easily be abused to suppress dissent rather than restore order. As the debate intensifies, so do the stakes. The Insurrection Act has only been used a handful of times in American history, during civil wars, riots, and natural disasters. But every time it's invoked, it tests the delicate balance between public order and personal freedom, between national security and the right to dissent. In a country founded on resistance to authoritarian rule, the idea of using federal troops against American citizens is more than just a legal debate. It's seen as a collision between power and principle. And now, as Donald Trump signals he may once again reach for this extraordinary power, one question echoes through the halls of government, the courts, and the streets. What is the line between protecting the nation and turning its power inward? What are your thoughts on this video? Do let us know in the comment section below.
If you like this video, then like, share, and subscribe to ET Now World.